How could there be too many books? We need more books. Books are great. Books are amazing. And series are great because you already know and you love the characters and you want to know what they're gonna do. So if you have more books about them, why is that a bad thing? Why? That can't be a bad thing. Hi everyone, I'm Jessie the Sleepy Koala, and today I have got some very exciting news. At least it's exciting for me. Yesterday I surpassed 100 subscribers, which is just wild in my mind. I am very appreciative of the fact that people like what I'm doing and feel the need to not only watch my videos but want to see new ones that come out and get notified. That means a lot to me, and I really enjoy doing this, and I'm really glad other people enjoy me doing it too. So hey, here's to more videos in the future. And seeing as I have a need for celebration, I am celebrating with a new intro, which I definitely just didn't happen to coincidentally make at the exact same time that I was passing 100 subs. That wasn't a coincidence at all, I promise. But I am very proud of it. I use Canva for it if anyone is wondering or interested. I got a recommendation from Sydney Ray, who had just incredible animation sequences in her BookTube newbie video, so I definitely wanted to go check it out. So I did, and I am so happy and excited and pleased with this new intro. And a tiny thing that I love and my husband loves, and it's this thread of continuity that, like, literally you would never know unless you're told. The music that I'm using is still the same music as before, it's just the, like, literal next section of the song. And I just think it suits a little bit better than the section I was using. But I love the continuity that I'm able to use the same music. That is very pleasing to me. I like through threads. Through threads are great. Today, I'm going to do a double trouble of tag videos. One of them is the Small Booktuber Tag. I was tagged by Becky from Teacup the Storyteller, and it looked like so much fun. So of course I've got to do the tag that looks fun. I can't just leave that and not do it. But also, to celebrate a bit, I wanted to do just a more general 20 questions about me, my reading habits and books, as well to just add in a little bit more to the Small Booktuber Tag. I have looked around and I have had a lot of trouble finding the original creator of the Small Booktuber Tag. If anybody does happen to know, please let me know and I will link them in the description. And again, thank you so much to Becky for tagging me. I think this is the first time I've been tagged in a tag video, so I'm very excited about it because even though I know I'm putting things out there and I see that people are watching them and I see the views, it still doesn't quite register that people know who I am. So being tagged in something is like, oh, people know me. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, I really like that. That makes me feel a little warm and fuzzy inside. So I'm very excited to do this, so let's get into things. My plan is to mostly just intermingle these and shuffle them together, so it won't really be me doing one list of questions then the other. This will just be a giant a giant ball. A giant ball of questions just shoved all together, so there's lots of information about everything all together. Yeah. The first question is, introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Jessie. I feel like this doesn't need to be said, but I'm Australian and I'm always tired. I live in the United States. I'm an immigrant from Australia. I moved over about 6 months ago and got married to my husband, Eric, who is the sweetest darling that ever existed. Following behind Eric in my list of favorite people and or companions and most adorable things ever are my two cats, Aona and Sky, and they are 5 months old. We got them 2 months ago, 3 months ago maybe, and they are delightful, and they are also little shits, but they're delightful little shits, so you win some, you lose some. I am a scientist by trade. I have an immunology background and have worked as a transplantation laboratory scientist before, and am looking to go into similar things now that I have moved to the United States. I do have to go back and do more study to be able to get the qualifications needed in this country, so I go back to school next year. I'm very excited. I do really like learning, and I really enjoy information. But I'm not the best at having the structure to do that by myself. So having that structure given to me in the forms of classes and institutions, I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm hoping it's not going to be too overwhelming, but I'm starting with one class and then moving up to the full-time load after that. And yeah, that'll be my life for the next 5 years. There is a break in the middle while I wait for the application for the second degree to have to process. Hopefully in the next half a decade, I should be able to get back to doing what I love. And honestly, in the meantime, I'm also doing what I love by studying and learning more. So it's a bit of a win-win situation. The question number 2, how long have you been on BookTube? I started my BookTube channel at the start of August because I read Six of Crows and really wanted to talk about Six of Crows so much. I started reading the sequel before I filmed that Fast Six of Crows video and knew that I would need to film a Crooked Kingdom video as well because I had so much to talk about even when I had only just started it. And oh boy, did those videos get long. But yeah, that was 2 books that I wanted to talk about that I just needed to put a camera in front of my face so I could do so. So that started 2 months ago, and now I am here. How many books are too many in a series? I don't know how to answer this question. There are definitely series that are very long that I have been a bit intimidated to pick up. Dresden Files is one, though I'm also not the biggest fan of the first book, so it kind of makes it a bit harder to go into it, but knowing that there's 16 books is just a lot to try and process. But at the same time, I've got other series that I've read that are that long as well, if not longer, if you add all of the books in the world together. Brandonsanderson. And I have no issue with how many books are there. So I don't really know if there's an upper bound for me. Like if something's reaching like 40 books or 50 books in a single series, that might be a bit too intimidating to me, but I don't think there's such a thing as too many books in a series. How could there be too many books? We need more books. Books are great. Books are amazing. And series are great because you already know and you love the characters and you want to know what they're gonna do. So if you have more books about them, why is that a bad thing? Why? That can't be a bad thing. How do you feel about cliffhangers? So I don't like them because I think that they are often not done very well. There are a couple of books with cliffhangers that I thought have been done very well, and it's generally that the story in that book has largely been resolved. There's open endings, and those open endings are what tie into the cliffhanger, but we're not just stopped short and then have to wait and nothing else is resolved. And no, so many books that I have read that have cliffhangers are like, okay, we're building up momentum, we're getting that, we're gonna give you all the answers. Lol jokes, we're not gonna give you any answers yet, ha 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 ha. No, I think the book should close off their own story and then also do a cliffhanger to tie into the next book. Otherwise, everything just seems gaping and open and just dissatisfying to me. And I have read some doozies of cliffhangers. So an example that I would give of a good cliffhanger is Lordofshadows by Cassandraclare. I think that she did very well at ending this book in a way that really hit where it hurts, but also left you at the edge of your seat on that cliff going, but wait, what? What? You can't just end it there. But the rest of the book had largely been resolved, and it was just this pocket at the end that was left to then continue on. And I really like that. That is probably the best cliffhanger I've ever seen. A really bad cliffhanger, in my opinion, is the end of Starsight by Brandonsanderson. I hated this. I really, really hated this. My understanding is it was very divisive between a lot of Brandon's fans as to people who liked or hated the cliffhanger. It felt like it was tacked on. It felt like it was out of nowhere. And it wasn't satisfying in any way except to set up a ooh, spooky mystery, which I feel could have been done in a different way that wasn't this. I'm gonna say something, but I realize that that's kind of a spoiler and I don't want to take that away from people. But yeah, I thought that was a badly done cliffhanger, and I thought Lord of Shadows was a very good cliffhanger. Hardcover or paperback? So I think I talked about this in another video, but I don't really like hardcovers in the United States. I don't like dust jackets, and I think that the books underneath are largely very boring. They're just this blank book with the words embossed on the spine. And I feel like there is such a lost opportunity here to actually emboss the whole book like they do in other countries and have gorgeous designs and gorgeously made books without these flimsy bits of paper on them that get really annoying and you either have to deal with them while you read or you take them off, which seems like what's the point of them anyway? And if it's to have pretty art on the covers, that's what a soft cover's for. So you could have the pretty art, and that is fine. So I do like hardcovers. I just don't like US hardcovers. I like the naked hardbacks that are the pretty special editions that I could get in Australia, and that's what a hardback is to me. Whereas like the US hardbacks just annoy the hell out of me. I will admit, they do look really good on a shelf, so I'm glad that the aesthetic is there, at least. In terms of reading though, I much prefer reading softbacks. I find them easier to deal with compared to a hardback. They're often smaller. Oh my god, I can't believe how big hardbacks are. For example, this is my softcover copy of Alloy of Law. This is my husband's hardcover copy. Why is it so much bigger? This is so much more cumbersome to carry around. And then you gotta deal with the fucking dust jacket as well. So I find softcovers much easier to carry around. They're lighter, they're more portable. They're honestly just easier to hold open as well. I do not care at all about breaking spines, and apparently the spines in non-US countries are harder or tougher, so you have to break them to read them. I learned a lot of very interesting things listening to American YouTubers talk about how American books work, and I go, wow, that's really different to what I do. And the whole idea of not breaking spines is wild to me, because how do you read the book then? There are some books that I try not to break the spines with, but they're more special editions, and honestly, it's actually only one book now that I can think about it. What type of videos do you make? So far, I have made a combination of tag videos, review videos, wrap-up videos, and I am currently doing a recap of the Skyward series. Please go check it out before the release of the third novel and the other 2 novellas that are coming out in the next 2 months. There's a lot of Skyward stuff coming out, so if you want a recap, I've got you for it. What do you love about BookTube? I love that BookTube creates a 2-way communication street. I've watched BookTube for probably about a year now, and I love watching people's videos. It's really great, but it's entirely one way of me watching other people, which is cool, but it's nice to have those people talk back to you and not just through the TV screen, because that doesn't count. It's been really nice meeting new people on BookTube and having conversations. I found that I'm much more confident if I want to comment on someone's BookTube videos now, whereas before I generally wouldn't, partially because of anxiety, because people are really scary, and partially because it's not that it never occurred to me, but watching YouTube is like a passing the time thing for me. I'm not trying to engage, I just want entertainment. Whereas now, being on BookTube, I have that engagement, and I both want to engage more as a watcher, but then I'm having better dialogues with people as a creator as well. And I love that. I've really, really enjoyed that. The next question is, what is your favorite book and what is your least favorite book? To get it out of the way to begin with, my Sanderson favorite is Skyward. My Sanderson least favorite is the original. I really did not like the original. And now the Sanderson is out of the way and not overshadowing everything, I don't have a favorite book or a least favorite book. At least not a single one. There's nothing that jumps out as this is the best book I've ever written and nothing can ever jump over it unless it's in a smaller category, like this is Brandon Sanderson and this is my favorite book of his. And I could probably do the same for Cassandraclare and the other authors that I read. But what I will give you instead is the top books I've read that I have also put into Goodreads, so this is exclusively from this year. And the same with the worst books that I've read. The best books that I have read this year that I guess let's call my favorites are Chainofiron, Onedarkthrone, Overragingtides, and Orfeia. They were all fantastic books in their own separate ways. I love them. I very much recommend that you check them out. I will put their links in the description because they were very good. The books that I liked the least this year, so these can be my least favorite books: Nevernight, Zerodaycode, and Tellmelies. They were not good. If you wish to hear more about Tellmelies in particular, I have a video for that. But the other two I haven't actually talked about on video in detail before, but they were all spectacularly bad in their own ways, and I would never recommend these on my life. Love triangles, yay or nay? Again, like with the cliffhangers, it depends on if it's done well. I have read some fantastic love triangles where it's an actual... competition's not the right word, but like it's an actual triangle. It's not an acute angle with a dotted line between the other 2 points that you pretend is a third side that's actually a viable love interest. So many love triangles are, these are the 2 people that will get together, but we have to throw someone in who will disrupt them, and then we totally have a love triangle, right? No, you know who the person's going to end up with. You know which person you're rooting for. That's not a love triangle. That's just a relationship challenge. And I get very frustrated the number of times I read books that have love triangles in them, and it just feels like there hasn't been effort put in to actually make an equally 3-sided triangle for the characters, instead of just throwing things together when you know what's going to happen and your readers know what's going to happen, and really then what's the point? This is kind of pointless sometimes. And there have been love triangles that I have read that just feel like they did not need to exist, and that they were only there to cause tension because sure, we need some tension, and the way to do that is, what if we throw in someone else to this relationship? And what if maybe a character falls in love with them but doesn't, because I'm not going to take them away from that other character that I've already made them fall in love with. Also a very big missed opportunity to explore other sorts of relationships that can occur. I've seen some incredible love triangles that do actually explore more than just they have to choose A or B. And I can't give any spoilers, but there is a love triangle in the Infernal Devices series by Cassandraclare that it does such an interesting take on the love that is between the 3 people there and who ends up with who and when. But I think the thing that's so good about that love triangle is that the 2 men in it are best friends, but they don't really fight in regards to the female love interest. Like, they maintain their strong bond of friendship, and they are still there for each other, and they love each other in their own way as well. The fact that Claire has been able to create a love triangle that, even though the romantic love only goes one way between each man and the woman, there is still a platonic friendship love that connects the 2 men as well. And I thought that was brilliantly done. Claire has also done the other love triangle that I love so much as well in the Dark Artifices series. I'm not going to go into that at all because really anything about that I say could be a spoiler. So I'm just going to not do that. What type of books do you read? I largely read science fiction fantasy, and I generally stick to, or at least I have previously generally stuck to YA books. I just much prefer the way that they are written and the tropes and themes that are in them. But I am also venturing out into the world of adult books, pretending I'm an adult. But even then, it is largely within the science fiction fantasy genre. That's just what I like to read. And there are some contemporaries that I've read recently that I did enjoy, but I can't say I'm gunning to go pick up contemporaries and read them anytime soon. I'm not good at branching out. That is the point of making this channel, is to try and help me get better at branching out to things. And I am getting a bit better, but I'm going to take like the slow, small steps in the directions that are similar but widening first. What is the most recent book that you couldn't finish? Technically not a book, but a series. But I started the Uzumaki manga series, and I read the first book, and I noped out pretty quickly after that. There was nothing wrong with it, it just definitely isn't for me. I don't like the body horror that is in it. I found out this month, completely coincidentally, through two different books, that I really don't like body horror. But I also found, like, the characters didn't really vibe for me, and I didn't care all that much for the story. The world building was really cool, and I did appreciate that, but yeah, I stopped reading that. What is a book you are currently reading? I am currently reading A Winter's Promise. I'm going through it very slowly. I actually don't know if I've read any of it this month at all. I have read a couple of other things this month, but I have DNF'd every single one of them, and I will talk about that in my wrap-up video. But currently, I am reading A Winter's Promise. What's the last book you recommended to someone? So I'm not sure if this counts, but I'm gonna pretend that it does. My mum... Hi mum, I love you. She watches my videos, and she watched the Skyward recap that I put out last week. I think by the time this comes out, it'll be last week. And she mentioned that she might pick up the book and give it a read if she can find it in the library. So I'm going to take that as a book that I recommended, and yeah, of course it was Sanderson. What are the oldest and newest books that you have read by publication date? So again, I had to go off my Goodreads for this because I don't know how else to find this out, and I definitely don't have all my books in my Goodreads. So going off the last year, the oldest book I have read, though I am technically still currently reading, is Tomorrow When the War Began, which was published in 1993. I cannot believe that book's older than I am. I really thought it was published after that, but apparently not. This is a great book. I highly recommend it. The most recently published book that I read was Sunreach by Brandonsanderson and Jancy Patterson, which came out at the end of September. Next question is just favorite author, and it's Brandonsanderson. Okay, let's move on. Buying books or borrowing them? So I do a bit of both. I love to buy books secondhand, and I used to, when I was in Australia, live right next to a secondhand shop, and it was 30 seconds from my house. I would go there on a walk just to get out of the house, and would normally walk out with a book, and it's because they were like $1, $2, like $2, $3, and it was so easy to go in and look at them and be like, I know that title, I will take this title now because it is worth $2 for a book. So I would get a lot of books that way. If there was a specific book I was looking for, I generally would go and buy it brand new from a bookstore because I am very impatient and want it now. I am not good at waiting for things to come in the mail, so even if it meant that I had to travel all the way into the city, I was gonna do that, and I was gonna make an adventure out of it, and I'd go get Starbucks. Starbucks is not common in Australia, so it was always a treat to get Starbucks. And then I would go to Dimmicks and I would get the book that I want, and then I would go home and read it on the train, and I would be very pleased with myself. In terms of borrowing books, I have always been a library person. As a kid, my mom took me to the library all the time. As a teenager, I went all the time. But when I got to university and I kind of fell off going to libraries, and I think it was just because they weren't easily accessible to me anymore. They were sometimes relatively close, but it would still mean like a 20-30 minute walk. And when you're carrying a stack of books, that kind of adds up. So I kind of fell off the train of going to libraries. But now that I'm in the United States to help save money and things like that, I have started using the libraries again here, and my God, it has been so nice to go back to a library. It's like walking into a bookstore with that calm and like the book smell. I don't actually know what books smell like. I have a terrible sense of smell. But the atmosphere of books and love of books and calm and quiet, and it's wonderful. So I very much enjoyed borrowing books again. It's also nice to be able to read something, and then if I know I don't like it, I know I haven't like wasted money on it. So it's a good way to try before you buy. That's what a library is. It's a try before you buy. What is a book you disliked that everyone seems to love? I thought I had to go figure it out by staring at my bookcase again, but then I remembered that I do actually know the answer to this. Americangods by Neil Gaiman. There is nothing wrong with the book. I think it's probably brilliantly written, but for someone else. I could not get into it. I got maybe a quarter of the way through the book and it felt like nothing happened. And there was all of this long prose that goes into so much detail that I just didn't feel immersed. Like, I don't mind detail, but there is a point where it gets too much. And I found that Americangods far surpassed that point to me, that I wasn't paying attention when I was reading it. So I decided to stop reading it. Again, I don't think it's bad. I would not say this is a bad book in the slightest. It's just not a me book. Bookmarks or dog ears? I use bookmarks. If people want to dog ear their books, that's for them to decide. You do what you do you with your own books, but I use bookmarks. A book you can always reread. So I reread everything if I like it. So I'm just going to, I guess, generically point to shelves, and there's another bookcase out there. If I've read the book and I like the book and I still have the book, I will reread the book. So pretty much everything that I like. Can you read while listening to music? I never used to be able to. I am starting to get into the habit now because I have been told that having something playing can actually help improve concentration while reading. I can't do anything with lyrics. That is way too distracting. And I can't do anything that's too upbeat or obvious or distracting in its own right. I've been doing these instrumental tracks that are like, I'll just Google autumn playlist and it will come up with a bunch of instrumental things that people think are fall and or autumn related. And they are almost always this like calm, gentle music. And the one that I've been listening to recently has the sounds of birds in it as well. It's meant to just be an ambient, oh, you're sitting outside in fall and you're also in a movie, so there's some music in the background. And that's been great. I'll put it on the lowest setting on my earbuds, and it has actually been really helpful to try and keep me engaged with what I'm doing and not let outside distractions stop me from reading, because I get distracted incredibly easily, like just so easily. So it's been good. I've been enjoying doing that. One POV or multiple POVs? I used to be a one POV person because multiple POVs meant that I had to kind of get in the heads of multiple people and fall in love with them all. And a lot of, like, sometimes I'll just go to a chapter with a character that I don't care that much about. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's get through this and get back into the head of someone I care about. But I have started reading a few books that have multiple POVs in the last couple of years where I have liked all of the characters, and that has been very refreshing. So one POV is the great safe route to me, because as long as I like that person, then there's never really going to be a chapter where who the chapter is about is going to dictate whether I like really like it or whether I'm just meh on it. But having the multiple POVs is such a nice way to look at different characters from different angles and to see a broader scope of not only the world and how people see it, but also the plot that's going on, because then you don't need to have it all in one place. And that has been nice. And I think now I would definitely say multiple POVs. What is your favorite video that you have made? I am actually I'm really pleased with the most recent one I put out. the Cosme of Reading order one, and it's not just because I only just put it out. I actually had to film that video twice because the first time I just wasn't in the right headspace and everything was not working and I couldn't put words together and it just went absolutely terribly, and I was really upset by it because it was only like the third video I had tried to film and it just didn't work. And even though I knew that didn't mean everything wasn't gonna work, it was at the like such a early stage and I was so upset and emotional at the time that it felt like everything was gonna fall apart and I wouldn't be able to do this. But then the next day I got up and I was like, okay, my mind is clearer, I'll refilm it. And it turned out really well. And I was very pleased at the time when I filmed it and thought this was much better. I thought this was much better. I really like this. I think this is going to make a good video. And then it sat on a shelf for like 2.5 months because I had other things that needed to go out first. And because there was so much time that passed, I started getting these doubts in my mind of, oh, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or maybe I explained this incorrectly. So when I opened it up last week, I was very pleasantly surprised by how well it was and how good it was and how well it turned out, and that I didn't need to film it a third time. It was okay, and I think it went very well in the end. I really enjoyed making that video. Eventually. I really enjoyed making that video eventually. Just my first time round did not go well. In one sitting or multiple sittings. I read books that are long enough that you can't do it in one sitting unless you don't want to eat or sleep. At the same time, I am someone who tends to read for long periods of time. It's actually part of the issue I have with procrastinating reading is because I know once I sit down and once I start, I'm not going to stop for hours. And what if I want to do other things in that time? I have tried to get better at doing okay, I've got 5 minutes, I'll pick up a book and I'll read it. And I've got a book in my bag, Tomorrow When the War Began, actually, exactly for that. So if I go to the shops with my husband and he's going in and I'm not, then I can just sit there and read my book for 10 minutes instead of wasting time on my phone. But at the same time, if I really want to like sit down at home and read a book, it's not going to be a short experience. But it's also going to be a multiple experience at the same time. Unless the book is very short, I still will need to break it up. Otherwise, like, I do get to a point where I can go, okay, I'm done for now. I'm done for the day. There are definitely books like Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson where you get to the last quarter and you're like, well, I guess I'm not putting this down until I've finished it. And that's definitely a very long reading session, but it's fun and I enjoy it. And like, once a book hooks you, it is hard to put it down. But at the same time, sometimes things are big enough that you really don't have a choice. And of course, the last question for both of these tags is, who do you tag next? So I will tag Ellie from Bibbidi Bobbidi Books, Courtney from Spuddy Tales, Michelle Lexi, and Literary Lion to do either and or both of these tags. And then I wish to return tag to Becky from Teacup the Storyteller to do the 20 questions video. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. And thank you again. Bye!